Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another video. Today we're going to be talking about even more budget bombs. So let's get right into it. Kicking it off, we have Rod of Absorption. For 3 mana, 2 and a blue, you get an artifact with whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, exile it instead of putting it into a graveyard as it resolves. Tap X, sacrifice Rod of Absorption. You may cast any number of spells from among cards exiled with Rod of Absorption with total mana value X or less without paying their mana costs. So every time an instant or sorcery resolves, it gets tucked under the rod, and then whenever you feel like, you can pay whatever, sacrifice it, and cast any number of those spells as long as you can pay the total mana value of the number of spells you want to cast. So let's say there's three mana spells under there, right? You can tap 6 and cast 2 of them and leave the third one in exile. Or you can simply just, if you know your opponent's playing some kind of recursive instant sorcery deck, you can simply just leave them under the rod and not cast them, because everything that hits the rod is now exiled, and they only go back to the graveyard when you choose to cast them. It's a pretty good spell. Next up, we have Dragon Wings. For 1 and a blue, you have an enchant creature aura. Enchant creature has flying, cycling for 1 and a blue. When a creature with commander mana cost 6 or more comes into play, you may return Dragon Wings from the graveyard to play attached to that creature. So you cycle this early game, completely trade it out for free, and then for the rest of the game, as long as your opponent isn't exiling it from your graveyard, every new creature that comes into the battlefield with mana value 6 or greater, you can just give it flying forever. It's kind of like Wonder if you only really cared about giving it to one creature, but it also drew you a card and put itself in the graveyard. Dragon's Breath, 1 and a red, enchant creature aura. Enchanted creature has haste. Tap 1 red. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Whenever a creature with converted mana cost 6 greater enters the battlefield, you may return Dragon Breath from the graveyard attached to that creature. Another part of the Dragon cycle, I would pick this one out of the other 3 that remain just because it is in red, and red is fantastic at looting these things to the graveyard. So if your commander is some big creature, then being able to slap it onto your commander and give it haste whenever you feel like, and fire breathing. Pretty good. You can also be political and give this to your opponent's creatures, because, you know, it does say whenever a creature enters with mana value 6 or greater. Now, I normally don't like tutors, but this one is cool. Long-term plans, 2 and a blue, search your library for any card, shuffle your library, then put that card 3rd from the top. For 3 mana, you get a demonic tutor at instant speed. The only downside is you have to dig 3 deep to find it, be that surveil or drawing or anything like that. Ideally, you want to cast this when the same turn you can dig that many deep. Haunting Voyage. 4 black, sorcery. Choose a creature type. Return 2 creatures of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. If this spell is foretold, return all creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield instead. Foretell for 5 black. 6 mana for a double reanimation is a pretty good deal just in general. But 7 mana to reanimate your entire graveyard, assuming you're a tribal deck. Now that's good. And if you're built properly, like a dragon deck or something, this will probably instantly win you the game if you have enough, like, ETB burns or haste sources or blah 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 blah. I'm surprised that I never see another tribal deck play this. It's just me. So I definitely recommend people check this one out. Spectrodeluge is 4 blue sorcery. Return each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less to its owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. Foretell 1 blue. If you are a mono blue deck, I would highly recommend slapping this in. It is a one-sided board wipe for 3 mana that, yes, you have to pay 2 into it first, but so what? I mean, like, mono blue can definitely get away with it. 2-color, maybe, if you're not looking to sweep away the big guys, but it's a blowout. I mean, it's as cheap as one-sided board wipes could possibly be. Warping Whale. 1 and a colorless instant. Choose 1. Exile target creature with power or toughness 1 or less. Counter target sorcery spell. Put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion on the battlefield. It has sacrifice to add a colorless. Are you sick of Farewell? Are you sick of Blasphemous Act? How about Ruinous Ultimatum? All these cards that are big problems that blow out your deck that's not blue, well, Warping Whale can counter all of them. The other ones are okay, right? You can snipe something small, You can put in a dude so you're 1 turn ahead for the next turn, and you get a death trigger mid. But the fact that it counters sorcery in any color, no one's going to see your mono green deck playing this Warping Whale when they go to farewell away all your big creatures. You're like, well, what if I had a counter spell? Slimefoot Survey. 4 and a green sorcery. Domain. Search your library for up to 2 land cards that each have a basic land type, then put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So yes, this is quite expensive for a ramp spell, but it lets you find lands with basic land types. You know, like triomes. If you are a 5 or 4 color for sure, 3's pushing it. You can find 2 of your triomes that fix your colors. You'll have Perfect Domain. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Put 1 on top and the others on the bottom. You're set up for the next turn after you just got color fixed. 5-color decks for sure. You should check this out. Recross the paths for 2 and a green sorcery. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put that card into play and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Clash with an opponent. If you win, return recross the paths to its owner's hand. Clash, by the way. Each clashing player reveals the top card of their library, then puts that card on the top or bottom. A player wins if his or her card has a higher mana cost. So for 3 mana, you get to flip until you hit a land, and then you put that land on the battlefield, untapped, by the way, and then you get to clash. And if you win, you get to bounce it back to your hand, and if you have enough mana, you can then use that untapped land you just got to do it again. And each time you do it, you get a free scribe, basically. I mean, doing it once makes it value, doing it twice makes it super value, and everything from then on is just gravy. The Deck of Many Things. 5 mana legendary artifact, tap 2, tap it, roll a d20, subtract the number of cards in your hand. If the result is 0 or less, discard your hand. 1 to 9, return a card at random from your graveyard to your hand. 10 to 19, draw 2 cards. 20, put a creature card from any graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. When that creature dies, its owner loses the game. I must remind you, this is only good in a deck that does not have a lot of cards in hand frequently. Pretty much any red deck. If your white deck is struggling with card draw and card advantage, this is a good fit. But if you're drawing a bunch of cards, do not play this card. But when you are low on cards, that bottom one where it can potentially make you discard your entire hand, even if you roll a 1, which is incredibly unlikely, then okay, you discard 1 card, who cares? More importantly, this is a colorless way to return any card from your graveyard to your hand. Yes, you don't get to pick, but you can grab a cool sorcery if it's the only one in your graveyard. You can draw 2 cards, and if you're completely hellbent and you roll a 20, congratulations, you can kill someone, I guess. But more importantly, we want those first 2 modes. And I've personally run this card, and it has done me a lot of favors. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Only play this in a deck that is either hellbent all the time, or does not draw cards like at all. It'll put in work though. Thanks for checking out my video. I hope some of these cards were interesting. Let me know if you're planning to check any of them out, and drop a comment down below if you want me to do even more of these. You know, feedback is always appreciated. And you have a nice day.